I never thought I'd be the guy who gets blindsided like this, but here I am, sitting in my own living room, staring at my phone like an idiot while everything I thought I knew about my life crumbles around me. My name's Jake, and I've been with my wife, Emily, for about 7 years now. We met in college, had a pretty good run, got married, and I really thought we were solid. At least I did. But the last few months I started noticing little things. Her phone buzzing constantly, her hiding her screen when I came close, and her acting weird when I tried to talk to her about my day. Nothing too obvious, just enough to make me suspicious. It all started after I won a big industry award for my business. Yeah, I'm a small business owner, but I'd worked my ass off to get recognized. It was a huge deal for me, and I thought Emily would be proud. Instead, she became more distant. She'd make snide comments about how boring my work was or how I was obsessed with my career. She'd suddenly have to leave the room when I mentioned meetings or new deals. I brushed it off, thinking maybe she was just stressed or jealous or whatever. But inside, I felt a nagging suspicion. Then one night, I decided to check the security footage from the office because I'd been hearing rumors of some leaks, people talking about secret plans and confidential info getting out. It was strange because I double-checked everything and nothing seemed amiss. But I wanted to be sure. When I pulled up the footage, I saw something that made my stomach drop. There on my monitor was Emily, my wife, meeting with someone. No, not someone, my biggest competitor, Mark. I'd known about him for a while, but I never thought she'd go this far. They were in a hotel room. I saw her unzipping his pants, her hand wrapped around his cock like she was giving him a blowjob. Her face was twisted in pleasure, and Mark looked like he was melting into the bed. I don't know how I managed to keep watching, but I couldn't look away. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? Was it just that night? Or was this a regular thing? My heart hammered in my chest, and all I could feel was a mix of betrayal and rage. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, was screwing my business rival, my enemy, while I was out trying to build something real. I couldn't process that at first. I just stared at the screen, frozen. When I finally snapped out of it, I felt this burning heat in my chest, like I'd been punched in the gut. I wanted to scream, to break something, but I just sat there, holding my phone, knowing I had to confront her. I knew the truth now, and everything was about to change. I never thought I'd be in this position, but there it was. The woman I thought I knew betraying me in the worst way possible. And that's when I decided I'd find out everything, no matter what it took. The next few hours were a blur. I sat there, replaying the footage over and over, trying to make sense of it all. When I finally got the nerve, I called her. Her phone rang a couple of times before she picked up, her voice dripping with that fake sweetness I'd come to recognize all too well. "Hey, Jake, what's up?" she said, pretending to be casual. "I saw you," I said, my voice shaking but trying to sound steady. "I saw you with Mark, in the hotel room. Explain." There was a pause on the other end, and then she started lying, bitching about how I was paranoid, how I didn't understand her, how she was just trying to figure things out because I'd been so busy. She told me I was overthinking, that it didn't mean anything. She said she was stressed out from work, that I was imagining things, that Mark was just a business contact. Yeah, right, like that just happens. I told her I wasn't stupid. I told her I saw what I saw, that she was full of shit, and I wanted her to come home so we could talk face to face. But she started yelling, calling me crazy, saying I was ruining everything, that I was overreacting because I couldn't handle her success or her independence. "Stop being so insecure," she snapped. "You're making everything about sex. Maybe you're the one who's cheating on me with your stupid business rivals." That's when I felt the first surge of real anger. She's lying her ass off, spinning this twisted story, trying to turn it around on me. I hung up on her, my hands trembling. I thought about what to do next. I knew I couldn't just confront her and expect honesty. She'd deny everything, lie her way out of it, and probably gaslight me into thinking I was the crazy one. No, I needed a plan. I needed proof, something more concrete. I decided I'd follow her the next day, see where she went, who she met. But I also knew I had to be careful. If she caught me spying, she'd never admit the truth. I couldn't let her manipulate me anymore. That night I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling numb but also furious. How could she do this? How could she betray me like this, not just emotionally but physically? And with my biggest competitor, someone who was trying to take everything I'd worked for. My mind kept circling around that image, her with Mark, her face twisted in pleasure, her hand on his cock. The thought made me sick, but it also lit a fire inside. I was done being naive. I was done being the fool in this relationship. The next morning, I decided I'd dig deeper. I pulled up her phone records, checked her messages, her emails. I needed to see if I could find more evidence, proof that this wasn't just a one-time thing. And what I found, that's what really broke me. There were messages. Dirty, explicit messages, more than I ever imagined, talking about how much she loved the feeling of being wanted, how she was planning to meet Mark again that very night. She'd even sent him pictures, nothing explicit but enough to tell me everything I needed to know. I was stunned. My wife, my partner, was cheating on me, and it wasn't just some fling. It was an ongoing affair, and it was with a guy who was trying to ruin me professionally and personally. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach all over again. My mind was a tornado of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. How did I not see this coming? How did I miss all the signs? Everything I'd worked for, my reputation, my business, my marriage, all of it was hanging in the balance now. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't want to just fly into a rage. I needed a plan. I decided I'd gather more evidence, confront her with everything I knew, and then decide what to do. But deep down, I already knew this wasn't just about catching her in the act. It was about ending this nightmare, about reclaiming whatever dignity I had left. I'd never been the type to make rash decisions, but I also wasn't going to be played for a fool anymore. This wasn't just a betrayal, it was an attack on everything I held dear, and I was damned if I was going to let her get away with it. By midday, I felt like I'd crossed a line I could never come back from. I had enough evidence to blow everything wide open, but I didn't want to do anything reckless. Still, I knew I had to confront her, so I called her again, more forcefully this time. I told her I knew about the messages, the hotel, everything. Her response was even more infuriating. "Oh, come on, Jake," she snapped, sounding bored now. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill. It's just sex. People do that all the time. You're acting like I committed murder or something." I couldn't believe how she was twisting it. She was trying to minimize the whole thing, act like she hadn't betrayed me in the worst way possible. I told her I wasn't stupid, that I had proof, and I wanted her to come home so we could talk properly. She, of course, refused, said she was busy, that she didn't have time for my stupid accusations, and that I was overreacting again. That's when I snapped. I told her if she didn't come home, I was going to look through her phone myself, see her messages, her photos, everything, and that I was done playing nice. That night I stayed up planning my next steps. I wasn't going to let her keep lying or gaslighting me. I decided to dig into her phone to find out just how deep this really went. I figured if I was going to end this, I needed every piece of proof I could get. It was a risky move, but I couldn't sit around waiting anymore. I snuck into her purse when she wasn't looking, found her phone, and unlocked it. The floodgates opened. There were dozens of messages, many deleted but recoverable. I found pictures she'd sent Mark, flirtatious exchanges, and even some voice notes where she was whispering how much she loved the thrill of cheating, how she couldn't wait to see him again. It was worse than I'd imagined. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. I felt sick to my stomach, like everything I believed in was crumbling. I'd been blindsided by her lies, her manipulations, and her blatant disregard for what we had. I mean, what kind of person does that? How could she lie so effortlessly, so convincingly? She had always been the bitchy wife in my mind, but this was something else entirely. She didn't even seem sorry, just defiant, like she was proud of her secret life. That night, I sat in the dark with her phone in my hand, tears streaming down my face, feeling a mix of heartbreak and pure rage. I was furious at her for dragging me into this mess, for making me doubt everything. I was furious at myself for not seeing it sooner. But more than anything, I was furious at Mark, how he played into this, how he tried to destroy me just because he couldn't beat me in business. I knew I had to confront her face to face. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, pretending everything was okay. The next day, I told her I was coming home early. I didn't say a word about what I knew. I just wanted to see her, face to face, and get some answers. I knew this was the moment everything would change, whether for better or worse. The thought of confronting her made my stomach churn, but I also knew I'd been played for a fool long enough. If she thought she could keep lying and sneaking around, she was dead wrong. I was done being naive. I was ready to face whatever came next. That afternoon, I came home earlier than usual, my mind a mess of conflicting emotions: anger, betrayal, sadness, and that lingering hope that somehow she'd come clean. I walked through the door, and everything felt eerily quiet. Usually, her voice would cut through the silence, or I'd find her lounging on the couch, but today, nothing. I called out her name, and she appeared in the kitchen, trying to act normal, but I could see the flicker of nervousness behind her eyes. That was all the confirmation I needed. I took a deep breath and laid out the evidence: her messages, the photos, the voice notes. I watched her face drain of color as I spoke, her composure cracking. "You lied to me," I said coldly. "You've been cheating on me with Mark, haven't you? While I was out working, trying to build something real, you were screwing him behind my back. How long has this been going on?" She tried to deny it at first, her voice rising with that bitchy attitude she always threw around. "Oh, please, Jake, you're overreacting. I was just talking to him about work, that's all. You're crazy if you think I'd cheat on you." I cut her off. "Stop the bullshit. I saw everything. The hotel room," her hand on his cock, her moaning. "Don't lie anymore. I know the truth." Her jaw clenched and her eyes flashed with anger. "You're just jealous, that's all. You think I'm supposed to wait around for you to come home from your stupid meetings, just sit around and do nothing? I'm a fucking woman, Jake. I deserve some excitement. Maybe I should have gone to someone who actually gives a damn about me." That was the moment I lost it. My fists clenched and I felt my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I had never seen her like this, so openly callous, so dismissive of everything we had. She was trying to make me the bad guy, spinning her bullshit, acting like I was the one who screwed up. But I knew the truth now, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate me anymore. "I don't know what kind of person you think you are," I said through gritted teeth, "but I'm done. Done with your lies, your cheating, your bullshit. I don't care if you think I'm insecure or if you want to call me jealous. You've crossed a line, Emily. I want you out of this house. I want you gone, and I want a divorce." She looked at me with that bitchy smirk like she thought she was winning. "Go ahead," she spat. "Get your divorce, Jake. You're so obsessed with your stupid business. Maybe you don't deserve anything better. Maybe I'll find someone who actually appreciates me." That was the final straw. I told her she had 2 hours to pack her things and leave. I wasn't going to argue anymore. I'd already lost a lot that day, and I knew I was in pain, but I also knew I had to stand firm. This wasn't just about her cheating. It was about respect, dignity, and reclaiming whatever shred of self-worth I had left. As she stormed out, cursing and throwing her purse on the floor, I felt an odd sense of relief mixed with heartbreak. I had finally faced the truth, and now I could start to rebuild. Or at least try to. I knew it was going to hurt for a long time, but I also knew I'd never let her or Mark do this to me again. This betrayal was the last chapter, and I was determined to write my ending my way. The house felt emptier than ever after Emily left. I stood there in the silence, staring at the door she just slammed behind her, feeling my world crack open. For a moment I just collapsed onto the couch, eyes staring at nothing, heart pounding painfully in my chest. I was broken, but also strangely relieved. At least now I didn't have to pretend anymore. Over the next few days, I threw myself into reconstructing what was left of my life. I contacted a lawyer, started the divorce process, and pulled back from everything that reminded me of her. But more than that, I had to deal with what I'd uncovered about Mark, her lover and my biggest competitor. The extent of her betrayal went beyond just the affair. It was also about how deeply she'd tried to sabotage my business. I started reviewing the security footage again, this time more carefully. I wanted to see if I could catch more of her dealings, any signs she'd been passing on secrets, maybe even meetings she had with Mark that she hadn't mentioned. It was a calculated move, but I needed to understand just how far this went. The footage showed her sneaking around, meeting him in different locations, always with that same sly look on her face. She was lying to me about everything. One day, I found something that made my stomach turn even more. There was a segment where she was in my office building, her pretending to be innocent, asking about some confidential project. I realized she'd been in my space, possibly trying to gather information for Mark. How much of my business had she been leaking? How much had she helped him get ahead, all while pretending to be the perfect wife? The thought made me rage inside, but I also felt sick. I'd trusted her with everything. I decided to take action. I hired a private investigator, someone I knew I could trust. I needed evidence to confront her legally, to make sure she couldn't spin her stories anymore. When the PI came back with his report, it confirmed everything I suspected. She'd been actively passing information, meeting Mark in secret, even accessing my files. This wasn't just infidelity, it was treason on a personal and professional level. The man who was supposed to be my partner, my wife, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt humiliated, angry, and deeply hurt. I realized I'd loved her, believed in us, believed she was different. But this was a whole new level of betrayal, and it cut deep. I questioned everything: my judgment, my trust, my worth. I slept less and worked more, channeling my pain into my business, trying to rebuild what I thought I'd lost. But inside, I was raw. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, her lies, her betrayal etched into my mind. I knew I had to make a decisive move, not just legally but emotionally. I couldn't keep dragging this out, living in chaos. I had to put everything behind me and move forward. I told myself I'd focus on my work, my reputation, and rebuilding my sense of self. That meant severing all ties with her, cutting out the betrayal and the lies. I'd start fresh, even if it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I was done with her, done with the lies, the cheating, the deception. And I was determined to take back control of my life, no matter how much it hurt. Every day since she left, I've been trying to process what happened. It's not easy, and some nights I still wake up with that ache in my chest. But I've learned one thing: betrayal cuts deep, but it also shows you who you really are. I don't want to be the guy who gets played anymore. I want to stand tall, rebuild, and find peace. The road ahead is long, but I know I'll get there. Nobody deserves to be betrayed like I was, but if I've learned anything, it's that I can survive it, and maybe even come out stronger. Looking back now, I can't believe how much my life changed in such a short span. The betrayal cut so deep that I thought I'd never recover, but somehow I'm still standing. I've come to see this as a brutal lesson, one that's taught me about trust, resilience, and the importance of knowing when to walk away. The pain of losing Emily was enormous, and honestly, I still feel it, like a dull ache that never quite goes away. But I also feel a strange sense of relief. I finally see clearly now. Since everything fell apart, I've put more focus on myself than I ever did before. I've gone back to therapy, trying to process all the anger and heartbreak. I've also doubled down on my business, making sure I rebuild what I almost lost because of her. Every day, I remind myself that I'm better off without the lies. I refuse to let her betrayal define me, even though it's hard to ignore the scars. One thing I've learned is that people can surprise you, sometimes in the worst ways. Emily didn't just cheat on me, she actively worked against me, trying to destroy what I'd worked so hard to build. Her lies, her manipulation, they didn't just hurt me emotionally, they threatened everything I was trying to create. That realization hit hard, but it also made me stronger. I've become more cautious, more aware of the red flags I once ignored. Now I focus on rebuilding my life, on trusting again, but more carefully. I know I'll probably never fully forget what happened, but I've learned to accept it. Betrayal like this leaves scars, but it also teaches you what kind of person you want to be moving forward. I want to be someone who's resilient, who stands tall after the fall, who doesn't let heartbreak turn into bitterness. To anyone going through something similar, I'd say this: trust is fragile, and sometimes the people closest to you aren't who they seem. But don't let that destroy you. Learn from it. Grow from it. Because at the end of the day, your life isn't defined by the betrayal, it's defined by how you rebuild afterward. I'm still healing, still angry at what I lost, but I also know that I'm capable of more than I ever imagined. I will move on. I will find happiness again. And I will never let anyone, no matter how close, take that from me again.